obviously it's a fast week, and it's hard to reflect back. When for us it's a Wednesday, and I know it's only Tuesday, but we play on a Friday afternoon, so things are accelerated. So this is a little later in the week than I'm used to. So the preparation's a little further ahead. You're a little further ahead than the final week, but I do want to recognize I thought last week our guys did a really good job at handling the entire week, and not just because they knew what was ahead of them and what was coming up this week, and playing for all the marbles and things like that. But I thought that they kind of walked into an environment that was going to be tough, and I thought they did a really good job in the preparation for it, and preparing themselves for, not the weather. Weather is just a part of the game, but even that environment, playing in a pro stadium where there's not a lot of people, that I don't think it affected them, and they came out, did what they needed to do, played the way we expected them to play, and obviously we got out of town with a victory. I thought Evan stepped up and did a really good job. I thought he did a good job at managing the situation that we were in. I'm not saying the game was under control, but I thought, as you walk in there, your defense is playing really well. You're in a situation that, we had talked all week about. We got to make sure we take care of the football, and so he walked into a situation of the game where, right before half, and are you going to chuck the thing, or are you going to try to be smart? We've done a better job in some of those situations and in the half with the football, and keeping yourself in a really good position. And so I thought I did that. I thought I came out the second half and did a really good job at just managing, where we were and what we needed to do moving forward. So obviously this week is huge, and that's obviously for everything and for all the marbles. This is the start of the championship, and this is what we prepare for. This is what we, envision. This is the one goal that we don't talk about that we have when we start camp, and it's senior day, and I don't think you can slight that in any way. These guys that, whether it's their fourth year, fifth year, or their sixth year, whether it's their first senior day or maybe even their second senior day for some of them, what they've done for us, what they've done for our program is something that you can never, completely put a value on. But so to me, yes, it's for a championship, and it's for an opportunity to play for a championship, but it's also for those guys and these guys that have meant so much to me and to this entire program.
Questions for Coach? Can you guess what I'm going to ask?
I don't have a whole lot of injury updates. I think that it is a little later in the week, and I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of reps this week for Ben, but he's played a lot of ball, and if we get to the game time situation and he's able to do it, then then we could go that direction. But we got to have preparations in both ways, and not that makes it a whole lot different for us. That's why it was a good situation last week that hey, Evan got an opportunity to get in there and play a lot more ball. But we're optimistic, but we gotta continue to push and see, and we'll have to make some decisions as we get closer to game time.
You can lean into getting Evan more reps in case Ben can't go.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it his mindset, his preparation. We kind of were in this situation 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago when Ben played in that game at Memphis. We didn't make a decision on who was going to play until the night before, to be honest with you, and so twofold. Maybe that was a tougher thing on Ben because he didn't know ahead of time. Maybe it was an easier thing on him. But nonetheless, it was what the situation was, and so a little bit different because the preparation this week will give him some more opportunities. But I think even that week we didn't know exactly which direction we were going to go, and we had to have preparation for both.
There's a home winning streak on the line. I'm sure you guys don't think a whole lot about that. Will said he doesn't want to be the guy to let that streak go. How much emphasis have you put during your tenure here to make sure you handle those games at home?
Well, we do. That's a big deal in the summer. That's the reason why we run the stadium. That's the reason why we're in the stadium in those situations. If we're, in spring ball and we go in the stadium, we make a big deal of it. It's about protecting your home. And to be honest with you, you don't need to tell me what the number is. I don't pay any attention to it. It wouldn't matter if it was, just the last game of the year or if there's any streak involved at all. And we don't look at the negatives of things. It's just another opportunity for our guys to play in front of the home crowd, and in particular these seniors to obviously to play, but to say thank you to them as well. And that's what we really got to put a push for. I know it's noon on Friday of Thanksgiving weekend, but these guys deserve the very best, and they deserve an opportunity to go out and play in front of that same kind of crowd we had, 2 weeks ago.
You talked last week about the ups and downs and kind of how unique this season has been. So what does it mean then to be at this point where you have a chance to do exactly what you wanted to do from the beginning?
It means our kids have done a phenomenal job, and our coaches have done a phenomenal job at managing and handling all the things that we've had to go through. And not always the outside can tell, but we've seen some of the games and what it's had to come down to, and the ways we've had to win football games, and you grow a lot from those things. And I think that's where we see ourselves right now, as we've grown an incredible amount from a lot of these really tough games and tough situations and playing on the road. And, so as you get to the end of the year, you always have things happen. You always have injuries. You always have things you got to adapt and adjust to, whether it's a quarterback situation, whether it's a D-line situation. It doesn't matter. And, so I think that in the long run, the way you go through this season and the things and the adversity that you've had and the ups and downs only makes you stronger.
Do you see similarities, maybe not in offensive style, but just Tulane, good defense? They've kind of been up and down on offense. When you're watching them, do you feel similarities to you guys?
I do. I see a lot of consistency, and we've had the opportunity to play them over I don't know how many times we've played them, but it feels like we've played them most every year, and have seen Coach Fritz and how they've consistently grown, in what they do. And I said the same thing when we went to play ECU. You could just see how they've developed and the consistency, not just offensively, defensively, special teams-wise, but the whole team and the whole program. And it's not a surprise to me that they're where they are in the situation that they're at, with a lot of older guys, whether they were picked very high at the start of the year or not. It's a really good football team that does it the right way.
Your first ever conference win was against this Tulane team. Does it feel like a million years ago at this point?
I never thought about it like that. Like I said, I don't know that I think back to a lot of those things, but now that you bring that up, that I do remember that they missed about a 25-yard field goal to go ahead with maybe 45 seconds or a minute 20 to go in the game or something at their place, and we capitalized. I think we actually ended up breaking a run with a minute to go in the game, and I'm screaming and hollering, not that they could hear me, for I don't know if it was Mike Warren or Mike Boone or somebody, to go down and not get into the end zone, just for the sheer fact that who knows what could happen if they get the ball back with 30 seconds. I don't know that I remember anything else about that game, but if you didn't bring that up, I wouldn't have known that.
Guys like Jabari and Whyle, they've been here since the beginning. Just about their growth and their leadership, how big of an impact have they had in these 5-6 years?
Incredible impact. I mean, that's what I said that's so special about this weekend, is that those guys have been here through the ups and the downs. They've been here through a lot of different things, and they're the reason the program is where it's at. And whether they had the utmost success in their first 2, 3, or 4 years, it's the consistency, it's the stability that really has taken us where we are. And so there's a lot of praise that should be had for those guys, and a lot of others that have done what it takes to get us to this position right here. And I don't just mean this year playing for the opportunity to play for a championship, but even those guys have come before them.
When you do get to moments like this, Luke, do you want your team to treat it like another game, another week, stay in the routine, or do you want these guys to embrace the everything that comes with this game, the senior day, the home winning streak, and the championship on?
No, you want them to embrace it. I mean, they've earned that, and I don't think it applies any more pressure. The pressure is applied from within. It's not that, hey, you're playing and this is an opportunity for, if you win, you're in the championship game, da-da-da. No, you don't put any more pressure upon yourself. But I do want them to embrace the opportunities that they've created and to enjoy it. So I always try to remind them, as well as I try to remind myself, to, enjoy these things that we've created, because it doesn't always happen like this. You don't always get to the end of November and all of a sudden, you're playing for the championship in the last game. So if you have the good fortunes to put yourself in those positions, yeah, there's some pressure that goes along with it. But it's nothing that it wasn't on us last week. It wasn't anything that wasn't on us the week before. It wasn't anything that wasn't on us on week one. And, but they've done this and created this, and they deserve to enjoy it as well.
I I know because of the bonus year, it feels like this is the third senior day where some of those first classes are still here and maybe going through senior day, maybe not. But the 2017 guys and those 2018, kind of that first big class you really had, are you finding yourself like, I know you don't.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you do because, how many guys have you ever spent 6 years with, But I think in the way we do it, I mean, it was harder in the first 2 years because I can't sit here and tell you that I really knew those guys really, really, really well. And I don't know that they really knew me. And it's tough when you're trying to build that trust in those first couple years. So, yeah, there's a little bit of a difference. But I don't know that it'd be any different than it was last year. I don't know that it'd be any different than it was the year before. Every one of these guys, you've got some different, times with and moments with, and they're all special to you, maybe sometimes in different ways. But I'm not a big senior day guy because I think it's hard. I hate saying bye and thank you and things like that at that moment. But it's right, and they deserve it. And, I think it's a good thing.
A lot of them have talked about what you have done over the past 5-6 years to kind of get the program to this point. What have that 2017, 2018 group of guys, what have they done to get the program?
They did everything. I mean, that first group, what we knew probably was going to be a little bit tougher. And, I always said to them throughout the entire year, and then especially at the end of the year, I said, your leadership will be evaluated on how this thing goes moving forward. And it's not just on what you did in that first year that we struggled, but the example that you set, the way you do things, will set the tone for the years to come. And I always try to say that to those guys that are leaving, the Desmond Ritters and things like that. Their leadership is really measured by what the guys look like the following year because of the example that they've set and how they've done it. If they've just preached it or they've just been really good players and that's given you the opportunity to win, then sometimes you look back at their leadership and say, well, how good was that leadership really? They're great players. There's a lot of great players. But when they leave and you don't take a drop off, when you see the things and the way it's created, you look back at that and say, wow, that leadership was really strong. Even though they were great players, they set the example. They paid attention to those younger guys. They helped develop those things. And that's what gives you a chance to continue to grow the program.
So looking forward to Friday. Obviously, Tulane brings this high-powered offense. Michael Pratt has been incredible this season. What have you been able to see from guys like Pratt, Tyjae Spears on the running back? What have you been able to see from those guys heading into Friday?
They've done a great job. I mean, I think that when you look across the board and you see all the older guys that they've got, it's not hard to figure out why they've been successful and why they're really successful right now. I mean, they got a guy at the helm that's a winner. And in every sense of the measure. I remember we didn't play him last year, but pregame I told Coach, I said, I don't know if your quarterback's out here because he had a concussion, he was out. But I said, I don't know that I've been more impressed watching a guy on film and how tough he is and how physical he is and can get up and keep taking the punishment that he did. And I see the same thing. Obviously, he's, I think, a year wiser and smarter, and he's avoided some of those shots, but he's a winner. He's a competitor, and it's not hard to tell. So I think the combination of all those things, their ability to run the football and create some things, along with their consistency across the board, it's not a surprise to me when you watch them play that they're in the situation they're in.
You mentioned earlier you don't know what will happen with the quarterback situation this week. If Ben can't go and Evan does have to play, how ready do you think Evan is to step in a moment like this?
I think he's ready. I think that it's hard because you're always preparing, and when that opportunity comes, you've got to seize the moment, and it's not going to be too big if he has to go in there. I think it's tougher last week when all of a sudden you're just thrust into some of those situations, and it was actually probably pretty good that it was 14-3 or whatever the score of the game was, and it wasn't like it was you're up 21 or you're up 28 points. I mean, you're on the road. It's a really tough environment, meaning it's you got to be self-motivated in some of those things. So I think it was a great opportunity for him to step into that position last week and really kind of have to take charge and show the control you have to have. Because sometimes when you go in there, you just want to let loose, and then you also got to understand what's the situation of the game. And so I don't think it's ever going to be too big for him. I think that's the unique thing with a guy like Evan, that mindset-wise and personality-wise and just who he is, that these moments are not too big for him. So if and when, I think he'll play under control. I think he'll do the things he needs to do, and I think that he'll surprise himself in the way that he's able to handle it as well.
I think you can talk about this. There was some NIL-related news yesterday about the launch of a collective, benefiting Bearcats athletes. Just curious your thoughts on that and what that will mean going forward.
It's the new age. It's the way of the world. And sometimes you can kind of shun it off and say, I don't know if I believe in this, but the reality is it's for our kids, and anything that's for our kids is a good thing in my mind. And some people might not believe that, but this is where we're moving towards, and finding new and other ways to take care of our kids. That's not making them softer. That's not babying them. That's not giving them something they don't deserve. It's just an opportunity for us to take care of them a little bit more. And it's really awesome that that we've got the bigger vision. It's with the whole program, with the whole entire athletic program, to be able to do something like this and to show that, hey, we want to help every one of our guys and gals and girls in some way, shape, or form. And we got to make sure that people around here understand that, regardless of what the rules had been in the past and what you believe, this is the way of the future. And it's awesome that John and them recognize that and see that, and are able to kind of encompass the whole athletic department in it.
I got a question from Chad. This is not from me. He was curious about your decision to wear a hat on Saturday.
You know what? That's the same question. After the game, I called to say hello to my wife and them, and all my daughter and them wanted to say, like, what were you doing? I've never seen you in a hat. I don't know. It was a conscious decision beforehand that I'm not going to let this affect me, and I didn't realize that only Chad would take notice, I guess. Chad and my daughter are the two that took notice, so.
I would say you'd be the one that had guts to ask me. He's making me ask.
My daughter didn't have a problem asking me too. So I don't know. I don't know if it was a real conscious decision. I just said we're not going to be affected by either the environment or the weather, and make sure you're prepared.
Any other questions, Coach?
It's a good one to end on.
Ty, how are you approaching this game Friday? Are you thinking about it as senior day, or are you thinking about it as a chance to host another championship game at Nippert, or both?
I say we're approaching it as our last game of the year. Nothing's guaranteed. Our backs are against the wall, and we got to go out there and do our thing and try to go get another victory in Nippert.
Coach said that this game is for all the marbles. I mean, typically coaches don't really say that, but he owned that. You, I'm sure, thought and dreamed about playing in big games like this, not just in front of big crowds, but nationally televised games with high stakes.
Yeah. I mean, these are games that you work for in the off season, that you work for all season to be able to playing for something in November.
How rewarding is it? Coach talked last week about how the ups and downs of this season, how it's kind of a unique, weird season, and yet you get to the end of it and you're kind of right where you would want to be, right? You have a chance to control your own destiny. Being through this season, how rewarding is it to be in this position right now?
Yeah, I mean, couldn't be happier with where we are right now. It's been a wild ride. We've had some close games. It came down to final stops or final scores or 2-point plays or you name it. But we've found a way to win and put ourselves in a situation where we can hopefully play for a championship if we get the job done.
They've got a high-powered offense, at least potentially most of the time. What do you see from them as you're breaking down film?
Yeah, I mean, their quarterback, he's a veteran guy, a real good player. Their running back is obviously up there in the league in yards, and he's a really good back, probably one of the best we've seen all season. And just overall in their offense, they got some good pass catchers, and they got threats all over the field, so we're going to have to be on our game.
You were part of that 2018 class. That was a big deal here, like the first full class that Coach Fickell had. There's a big focus on some of those local guys. You're a little bit outside of that. What do you remember just from being in Columbus and seeing this staff come in and really try and focus on Ohio and the Cincinnati area when you were making your decision back in high school?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I loved it. Being an Ohio guy, they're focusing on Ohio people. So, yeah, I think it was a kind of perfect storm for me of all the coaches that were ending up here and Coach Fickell and all that, and knowing that he had strong ties to Ohio. So, yeah, it definitely helped.
Whyle has talked about how difficult it was to commit because you had to understand and respect his vision, Luke's vision, because it wasn't here yet. Was that difficult for you to say, okay, even though this isn't here, I trust that this will happen?
Yeah, it definitely was a bit of blind faith. You know, they haven't had a season yet, and just going into it, and before I committed, they haven't had a season. I'm just going into it and just having faith in his principles and the type of culture and the type of program he was going to build here. So having faith in that, and it's worked out pretty well.
You went to the same high school as Fick, right?
Yes.
So how much, even, when he took the job here, or I guess when you were kind of coming up, how much did that weigh or impact your decision in terms of knowing who he was and wanting to go play for him?
Yeah, it definitely helped me get to know him a little bit better, have that little extra connection with him, knowing kind of where he came from and knowing where I came from. It just helped our relationship in the process.
Does he ever knowingly talk about how great of a wrestler he was?
No, he doesn't. He's pretty humble about that one. You know, everyone's told me and all that. But yeah, he was a pretty darn good wrestler.
How are you approaching Friday from a senior day perspective? Because I think if you wanted to, you could have another year. Have you made a decision? Do you know what you're going to do moving forward, or have you not thought about it that way?
I haven't put much thought. I mean, I'm going to walk on senior day for sure, but I'm just focused on the next game, and then I'll make decisions after that.
Is that weird because there's feels like senior day now could go like 3 years
Yeah, it's definitely, Huber walked last year on senior day, and he's back planning to walk again on Friday. So, yeah, the COVID year has definitely made it interesting.
Any other questions? Cool. Thanks, Ty.
Yep.
Have you allowed yourself to start thinking about senior day at all yet? Or are you still pushing that off?
A little bit. Really, Coach Fick in the team meeting yesterday, it kind of hit me. He was just saying, this is our last guaranteed week. There's no guarantee that we practice next week, so we got to prepare like it's the last. It's kind of a championship week in a sense. So maybe a little bit for sure.
You've spoken about this before, but just how special is it to be able to run out into that stadium in front of your friends in your hometown, in your hometown?
That's why I chose to come here. It's one of the best feelings in my entire life, and I can't wait. I think it's going to be a special experience on senior day this Friday for sure.
Not that you needed extra motivation, but knowing now that if you do win Friday, you're coming back to Nipper. What does that do for you in the back of your head?
I mean, I think home field advantage in Nip is very real. So I think being able to get that, I think we should try to find a way for it to be at home at all costs. But obviously, if it's not, we're still going to take care of business. So.
There seems to be a question mark at quarterback this week. At least Luke wouldn't tell us. Does that change your approach at all, either as a tight end or just as a team captain, to make sure that whoever it is, everyone's on the same page?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Ben's a day-to-day game time decision, but no, I don't think it really changes much. We're good with both. It doesn't change the game plan. Obviously, different style quarterbacks, dual threat versus pro style, but it doesn't change the scheme. It doesn't change how we practice. We trust them. We believe in both of them, and either one can, get the job done on Friday.
You obviously repped with Evan a lot in preseason, not as much since the season began. So what's important from that perspective for you and the other starters in terms of, if Ben's limited this week, get more comfortable with Evan?
There's a certain level of chemistry you got to build with, not just quarterbacks, but everybody on the team, everybody on the offense. Everybody's got to feel comfortable with each other. And I think, we have that with both Ev and Ben. So I think that's a really, good, positive thing that, like I said, whoever goes in on Friday, will be fine.
Tulane has a very high-powered linebacker core, obviously, between Dorian Williams and Nick Anderson. What have you been able to see from those two guys on tape, and how do you feel like you can attack them and be successful?
I think the most notable thing that I saw from them is just they're very capable of finding the ball, and they get there really fast. I think fundamentals is going to be a big key with those two guys, and everybody in the box. I think they're up front. They're really good with their hands. They're hard to move. They're disciplined. So I think. So yesterday, Coach Fickell said this is going to be a game about culture and discipline and little things, attention to detail, and I think that's going to play a big part in this game. In blocking, receiving, everything. So,
Josh, you've played in a lot of big games here at UC in your time. This is a big one. Everybody knows what's at stake with the championship and also the home winning streak and all that stuff that goes into it. When you get ready for a big game, how much do you embrace that moment? Does it feel different to you, or do you try to make it feel like just any other game?
That's a good question. I try to make it feel like any other game, but knowing it's not, you just can't feel the pressure behind it. And you warm up, you practice, you prepare like it's any other game. And that way when you go out there on game day on Friday or Saturday, you're in your routine. It's just like any other day, because really that's all it is. You know what I mean?
Gotten too much into actual practicing game plan yet, although I guess you're a day ahead. Anyways, is the muscle memory from maybe the 2018, 2019 offense kicking in a little bit with Evan running it? Does it feel that way at all?
What do you mean?
Running what Dez was running, similar to those first couple of years?
Maybe a little bit. Bringing some things back, I guess. But when Friday comes, we're just going to do what we do. So.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, guys.
Taylor here, 6th year senior.
A lot of these guys, we just talked to Ty and Josh, they still have, if they would want it, they could still potentially come back next year. But you're done, right? You got no more eligibility left. This is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it. Love to stay around the program some other way or something, but this is last ride, baby.
I know you probably went into last year not wanting to, make a decision either way, but how does that impact your emotions, your mindset heading into Friday?
It impacts it a little bit. I remember last year was doing senior day, and it just kind of slipped my mind, and I'm going about to go down the steps. I'm like, why? I'm looking on the field. I'm like, oh, it is senior night. I'm like, was I supposed to be down there? And I'm like, yeah. It just kind of slipped my mind. I was like, well, I guess that kind of initiated that I was staying. So, yeah. But man, it's I can't exactly tell you right now, but it'll probably be a tier or two out there. But yeah, it's all been a good time.
Josh and Ty both talked about having blind faith in Luke and his vision, because at that point when you guys committed to play here, this hadn't happened yet. You know, it still was a to be determined. How difficult was that back then to go, all right, I believe you, I can do this?
Well, at first, honestly, I don't want to say it was that difficult. I don't know what it was really, honestly, but I mean, yeah, it was it was a whole lot of blind faith, man. I believed in what he had to say, and who my D-line coach was at the time that was recruiting me. It felt like they were coming to see me for like a couple weeks in a row, like almost every other day. And I'm like, man, I mean, shoot, I would love to be somewhere where they want me and need me instead of somewhere where they would like to have me. So it's kind of how I've taken it.
You guys have been in a similar situation the past couple of years. Aside from being undefeated the past 2 years, though, how does this season feel different where you still have a chance to do the same thing, get a home championship game? Why is this season different right now, though?
It reminds me a lot of 2019 when we still had everything right in front of our face and we had to play Memphis back to back, and it's kind of lining up like that same way. And like that season, it was I can't remember exactly at all, but I mean at the end of the day, it was about just trying to find a way to win too. So we've been speaking on that a lot this year as well. But I mean, all I can say is everything is right in front of us. So all we can do is go out there and try and take it.
Luke said he used the phrase, "This is for all the marbles." Did you dream about playing in big games like this, national television, big game, big stakes when you were high school, thinking about, all right, one day?
Yeah, of course, most definitely. I'm pretty sure all kids who plan on wanting to play college sports and go on and go to the professionals, this is part of that, playing in those big games, the exposure, you want and such. Yeah, this is what you dream of.
Obviously, with the big game ahead of this weekend, Tyjae Spears is one of the top running backs in the country, or not the country, the conference. What have you been able to see from him on tape? Obviously, it's a 1,000-yard rusher, 12 touchdowns. What have you been able to see from him, and what makes him so special?
We got to respect him, and we got to stop the run. Simple as that, man. We got to respect him and stop the run.
Not to talk bad about any place else, but when you play in a stadium Saturday where maybe there's not a ton of atmosphere, not that you don't appreciate Nippert, but is it a reminder of what it's like to, play in a stadium that's sold out, or what the atmosphere is going to be like on Friday?
It definitely is, and it's a nice little how should I say it? Snap back to reality that at the end of the day, it's just us, and we're the ones on the field and together doing it all, and that's all we need, honestly. But it's a nice little refreshment being able to switch environments and then come back to the nip. I feel like it makes it a little bit more electric for us.
I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. So you were unhealthy for the UCF game, and you guys lost that game. Who knows what would have happened had you been out there? Does it feel good to have another shot at it? Like, it's not UCF, but like a shot to win this game and bring the conference championship back home. It's kind of like another opportunity to play in a big game.
Most definitely. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like, after that game, everybody's not kind of talking and, looking around and, who else is lost and this and that and how much of a shot we've got. Can we play? Will we be able to play the game at home, or if we make it all the way through, do we got to play somebody else away? All those things are running through people's heads, mine as well. But I mean, all I can say is I wish I was out there, and I feel like, of course, being an older guy, senior, more experienced, I feel like, of course, I could have helped in a lot of different ways. But at the end of the day, who knows? I go out there and make the situation worse, and then I'm not sitting up here being able to play in this game as it is. But I mean, I'm grateful. I believe everything happened for a reason, and for the best.
Whoever plays the quarterback on a Saturday or whatever doesn't necessarily impact the way you play defense, I'm sure. But did you have any words for Evan at any point during the game Saturday?
Man, go handle your business. It is what it is. Act like you've been here before. Simple as that. We got business to handle, game to win. Nut up.
You've talked about your history as a quarterback, too. Did you maybe have any pointers just from quarterback to Evan when we went out there?
Don't go out there looking worse than me, or I'm going to have to come out there and handle business. Simple as that.